Pete Alonso's getting traded, and baseball sucks. So we're going to talk about football. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo bringing you the show today with the dog, along with the dog, Jeff Healy. We got to change the opening because I feel like the baseball roots here that have gotten us to 3.5 years are it's going to dwindle fast and we've kind of hinted at this for a long time, but I think this is like the actual rising of it. Like, I think we'll still have shows where we talk about baseball and maybe we still call it Diamond Diehards, but we just do more interviews or we talk about like whatever comes to mind at that time.
If
the dog is here.
If everyone's wondering in the audience, as usual, I know nothing about what Rizzo's going to talk about on here.
I gave you a rundown. It's in the chat. The rundown's in the chat.
I'll say we're redesigning the show. I'm like, I didn't hear anything about this.
Well,
we're just teasing. Just teasing. Sounds good.
Yeah.
More bourbon.
Boy, I'm still on water. Yeah, it's like a lost summer of baseball in New York. And it's kind of weird, Dog. So, okay, I'm Joe Rizzo. That's the dog, Jeff Healy. Follow us on Twitter at Diamond Diehards for me, at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8 for the dog. And like do all the subscribe stuff on all the podcasts everywhere that you find it. So the lost summer of baseball, if we didn't think it could get any worse, like the Yankees nearly have their longest losing streak in 110 years. We could talk about that at some point. They haven't lost 10 in a row since 1913, which was the first year that they were the Yankees. They were the Highlanders before that. That was the first year they were full-time called the Yankees. And this, I think, was like their 4th 9-game losing streak, or their 5th one. And now they're 5-0 in those games since then. And that was the Judge 3-homer game. And really, they haven't done too much since, but they at least did avoid that ignominious fate. And it's kind of interesting because none of the other major sports leagues in North America were in existence in 1913. And I believe in every one of those sports, every team has had at least a 10-game losing streak, apparently. Although the NFL, you would think maybe not. But among teams that are alive, the Yankees are like the only one that's gone this far without a 10-game losing streak. The second best record of that is okay. The recording of the show stopped. That's fantastic. I guess so. We're just gonna keep going then. The Cardinals went like 50 years without a 10-game losing streak. So that streak for the Yankees without a 10-game losing streak is more than double the second best effort of any team, and that one ended in like the 60s or something. So
still on Facebook, by the way.
Yeah, well, thanks for checking into that, Dog. So as if we think, and the Mets just like kind of haven't had it for, they had the great start and then they just lost it right after that. But like just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, Dog, the Pete Alonso's a goner in the offseason. Really?
I just don't understand that one. Obviously everything's always up for sale, including my integrity. But just kidding that one. Only daddy says that, kiddos. No, but I mean seriously, if the Mets have taken forever to finally get good position players. I mean, like their entire like almost 50 year or plus 50 plus year history, 6-year history now. The Mets never had position players. They're finally getting a couple like all-time franchise position sort of players, and a guy like Pete Alonso, and we can't wait to trade him. That just makes no sense. I don't know if it sounds almost Will Pontian would be my thought. Like you just, I thought we were past this. Is like the irritating thing that there's no reason in the world for the Mets to trade Pete Alonso. I mean, unless they have a completely different view on what his value is going forward, which I really don't get a sense of why that would be. he's had a bit of a down year, so is the rest of the team. But even in his down year, he's hitting the hell out of the ball. Has almost 40. Is going to have over 40 home runs, which last time I checked, doesn't exactly grow on trees in Queens. So I don't understand it. He's a fan favorite. It's not like they have a first baseman come along who's going to push him out. I mean, it just makes no sense. And especially since if you have any sort of desire of competing in certainly in 24 and even 25, why in the world you would get rid of Pete Alonso? Just makes no sense.
He's gonna look. I mean, I'll tell you this. And we got some. We got the chat working already here. Our pal George Amores Love is jumping in. He thinks that he's a goner. It's like the Mets can't have nice things. Alonso never charges the mound, and pitchers don't retaliate. Sadly, he might be a goner. His teammates appear to not like him. I think that the bottom line here is that if you're a Met fan, the one thing that you really don't like about it is how good he's going to look hitting behind Aaron Judge, right? That's the weird doomsday scenario, isn't it? Like, because if you trade him, right, there's no saying that, like, you're not going to trade him to the Yankees. Although if there was ever a time where those teams would just willingly make deals with each other, it's probably more so today than in past years when you consider like the ownership and the GMs and, like they're less inclined to worry about what they've done. Like let's just say they trade him to the Royals, right? And then the Yankees turn around to the Royals and say, hey, wait a minute. We like him. We'll give you this, this, and this. And the Royals are like, oh, wait a minute. Like we kind of just, for having him here for a couple of days, like we could turn around and kind of get what we really, really want. Like those scenarios exist. Now, listen, I don't actually think that he's going to end up on the Yankees, because what the Yankees actually need, I mean, it would be great to sort of have him, but the Yankees' bigger problem is that they already have too many of the bats from the right-handed side, and this would create even a further logjam because you have Stanton there. I mean, you can't even entertain this if you're the Yankees. You wouldn't even be able to entertain it unless you got Stanton moved out. The funny thing is, did Stanton ever hit anywhere better than at Citi Field?
Maybe that's it. It's a Machiavellian move.
Well, it would be. It might. It might help both teams. But
a Met Yankee trade. The problem is they both need starting pitching. Right. That's probably the biggest need on both teams, I would argue at this point.
Oh yeah, that you got that, Dawg?
Gordon's back.
Just gotta make sure it goes to the right place. There should be plenty of disk space wherever it's going.
That's Yanks can't trade because they both need starting pitching. That's the Dawg's call. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, or even free agency, right? I mean, this is what just makes no sense. Is that this is the guy you sign and lock. Now, I don't know if they're just trying to drive his value down or just, I don't know, just getting bummed out on life and then try and extend him a long-term deal. I mean, that is what clearly made a heck of a lot more sense. The Mets doing that rather than going and trading him. I mean, there's just no reason for this Met ownership to do that, particularly coming off a disappointing year. I mean, it'd be one thing if you like rocked it out, won the World Series, and hey, we got some guys coming up, and we'll move Mauricio to first base or something, and we're saving up our money for Ohtani. You could kind of spin a story at that point. But coming off a horribly disappointing year, that you've already done your trade. Like, if you're going to do that, why don't you trade him at the deadline? Right? I mean, once again, to me, makes no sense. That if you've already decided to do Scherzer and Verlander and everything else, I'm like, if you were going to do it, I think that time to do that would be at the deadline to get max value. I don't know. People argue get max value in off season. I don't really think so. Not for an impact sort of player like that. I don't believe. And it just makes no sense. There's no reason to do it. right? You're just going to turn around, take that money, and go invest in somebody else. You've already got a proven guy who gets it done in New York, and everybody and the fans love. And the whole like teammates don't like him thing, I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't. I haven't seen any reputable stuff that stands behind that. Short of they just let him get drilled, but they let all the guys get drilled. So I mean, it's not like he's the only one who got hit. Everyone likes Mark Cannon. He got drilled all the time. So I don't buy that part of the story either.
Dawg, Gatto Acupuncture and Wellness is now in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Book online at gattoacu.com or call 551-212-3845. Check out their new location where Dr. Melissa is, and she will take care of you holistically.
You know who needs Gatto Acupuncture?
Who, Dawg?
Pete Alonso. just got drilled in the head.
Yeah, that back of the neck. You know, it's as a little leaguer, I caught one of those in that spot, but I got it flush. So you know how Alonso, he like ducked and his helmet exposed the back of his neck, and the ball hit the back of his neck, and then it continued on toward the backstop. Of course, it's, you know, a major league pitch, even though it was a curve.
88 miles. Yeah. And like that guy throws like an 88-mile-an-hour curve.
Yeah. So
he also can't hit the broadside of the barn. I will give him that.
so for me, this was little league, but instead of doing what Alonso did, like I turned and the ball hit me directly in the back of the neck below the helmet, and it completely messed me up. I couldn't hit after that. I was just so afraid of the ball. So when I saw that, I was like having flashbacks. I'm like, oh my God, thank God it didn't hit him like directly just flush, because that was like scared the daylights out of me. I mean, I was a kid, but you know, it scared the daylights out of me.
Someone did a heat map of like all the spots that Alonso's gotten hit, by the way. Like they're all up and in. Like they're all like shoulder up.
Well,
which is not a bad one. Like, you know, occasionally, like, oh, you get this, that, whatever. Like, it doesn't even hang over the plate. I mean, that's another bizarre one. Like, it's just like, I don't know.
You have to pitch him up and in, because if you put it anywhere out toward the middle of the plate, he kills it. So that kind of makes sense. Like, it makes sense to take a power hitter's that's where you take his power away, right? Like,
but not to drill him though. Like, I get busted him in, and occasionally you're gonna have a mistake in or something like that. But like, it was pretty blatant when you see the pick on it. Like, there was a little like two. It was like, you know, the waist, like a knee or something, or a knee and a foot, and like everything else was like above the chest.
How many times has Anthony Rizzo gotten hit this year, Dawg? I mean, I know he's barely been in the lineup, but he's probably gotten hit like almost 17 times. But he's on top of the plate. All right, let's see. George Morez Love is very active in the chat. We got him worked up. He doesn't want him to be a Yankee. Jerry Milani's in there. Yankees need everything. Have you seen no one cheers for Alonso on the field during home run derby? I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Or maybe Lindor is the problem, but Lindor's got the contract. So if he's the problem, then everybody else is the problem. So
that is true about the car.
Yeah. Lindor still owes McNeil a car. Has that been an issue in the clubhouse? Is it just boys being boys? Bob Walker checks in, our great umpire friend. If we have any umpiring questions for Bob Walker, ask him in the chat. So if you look at the way this like Yankee Met landscape pans out, right? And then so you're talking about big guys potentially on the move, right? And let's just say Alonso's on the move. Like, what are you going to get for him? Like, and who are you going to get it from? What are you going to do to fill that hole? Like, you've created a chasm at first base. And you know, is there a Freddie Freeman out on the market? No, I don't think so. And the Mets' need for a left-handed bat at first base is non-existent. Like whereas the Yankees' need for a left-handed bat at first base is like, you'd take a guy who's a little bit lesser of a bat, as long as he bats left-handed, and you could bat him in the middle of the lineup, because they're so desperate for left-handed bats. The whole lineup is right-handed. It's crazy. So I got a couple of scenarios for you, Dog. I need you to fill in the Mets scenario, whereas just say Alonso is jettisoned and they got to fill it. You got to help me with some candidates to put there. But for the Yankees, I think there's the first domino to fall has to be Stanton. Like they have to try to do something with getting him off the roster in this offseason. And so as a guy and as a player, you know, I've liked him. Like I think he's a good dude. He doesn't get in trouble. He really cares. He works hard, and he's just having just an awful season. Like he's even admitted it. You know, when Judge went down, Stanton needed to step up, and he just melted away. And at times he's just been such an easy out that now when he has games where, you know, he's drilling the ball all over the field, you're like, wow, where did that come from? And that can't be the case. I don't think he's done, but I think a change of scenery would probably help him. And maybe he's somebody that would make sense for the Mets, Dog, because of his history hitting in that park where he's hit probably better than he's hit anywhere else.
I'm not taking your problem.
Hold on. He's not a problem. You're barely going to have to pay him. You're barely going to have to pay him.
You have my attention now.
You have it. You have the DH/outfield slots now as a full-time DH, you know, situation. That is what the National League is in 2023. That's not an issue anymore. So you can play him some in the outfield. You could play him at DH. And listen, your DH is Daniel Vogelbach from one side, and you know I would probably rather have Stanton, you know, not hitting than Vogelbach from either side.
Vogelbach's been hot.
Yeah, whatever.
I concur. We definitely have an opening in DH. That's for sure.
So there's a fit there. And then if you lost Alonso, not to the Yankees, but just in general, if you traded him away, then he does fill that role of the big right-handed power bat that you've just lost. Does he fill it completely? I mean, Alonso's better than Stanton. Right now he's way better, potentially year to year, at least, Stanton could probably close the gap here and there. So he would make sense to eventually get to the Mets somehow. But I think the more likely scenarios are starting to pop up here. And I think there's one that should get Yankee fans potentially really, really excited. And the Shohei Ohtani elbow injury should perk up Yankee fans' radar. Like you should be looking around and boom, and the radar should be up. Because if he's going to pitch, that's one thing. If he's not going to pitch, then if you're the Yankees, you can now put him in play and you don't have to worry as much about getting Stanton off your roster. And here's why. So as followers of the show know, our best rated show of all time was our interview last winter with Ray Montgomery, who's the Angels bench coach. And insight from that interview says that, a guy who was a major league outfielder himself and has been like a scouting director with a successful track record, like in Milwaukee, where all these guys that, he was responsible for drafting, like you're now making a first place team every year. Ohtani has begged to play the outfield, and he only did it for one game in a couple of innings, I think a couple of years ago for Joe Madden. If he's not going to pitch, then the prospect of him playing outfield becomes very real, because there's not an iota of doubt that he could play it, and he could play it well. He's not going to hurt you out there. And even if he's let's use Stratomatic terms, even if he's a 5, he's still going to hit.
It's not 5-2, by the way.
So
I don't think.
No, I don't think he would be either.
Down the field, actually.
I think he would be good as well. Could he play first base? I don't know. You know, first base is a little bit of a different story. You have to field grounders. I mean, he's a pitcher, so you'd figure that he might be able to do that. But as an outfielder, he's
The only wrinkle I see with the
perfect.
outfield is the arm, right? If his arm is hurt and can't pitch, like if I'm his agent, I'd be like NFW. Like I'd say you want to take a year off and hope the ligament kind of comes back in line or whatever else like that, or time will heal it. Then to me, I'd say wherever you go, you should be the DH.
Well,
if you want to be an emergency outfielder or something like that, that's sort of one thing. But competitive guy like that,
a left fielder. I think he could handle it. I think he could handle it.
I think
an off-season.
I think he could play it, but I think it's a risky move from his point because
it's that risky.
I mean, if he can come back and pitch, then he's the $500 million guy we talked about, right? If not, then he's an awesome hitter who might be let's call it average outfielder. I think it'd be a little bit better, but you could argue, right? He's never really got out there all that much. Would you want to risk that potential huge upside?
Yes.
If you're
yes, because he's going to be more valuable. He's going to be more valuable as an outfielder than he is as a DH, because then he fits everywhere and anywhere.
But I guess the question would be I would agree with that if he knows he's never going to sign the big contract as a pitcher plus.
Guess what? If you told me that he would play the outfield starting next year, and we could also mix him in at DH, even if it's half and half, I will take it. And I will give him the $500 million. I'm not even batting an eyelash. Wow. I am not hesitating. You know why?
Wow.
Think Dawg economics here. I am going to make that money back every single year on him. He is so marketable, and that marketability for a guy like that is not going anywhere. And if you're the Yankees, you also have a good history with Japanese players there. Matsui was beloved by Yankee fans. I mean, he was like my favorite player. I loved him, Tanaka. I mean, those guys have been beloved at Yankee Stadium. I mean, Hideki Irabu was the first one. He came in. He just basically made it so like every Japanese player was going to be more loved than he was from the beginning. But you're in New York, and you're basically he's pitched for a while, and then he goes to the Yankees. He becomes a full-time outfielder, and he's like on the Babe Ruth track right there, right? Like it's
knew we were going with that.
It's the Dawg. It's the most marketable thing ever. You don't think you're gonna make back the money on paying him $50 million a year for 10 years? And I'll go the top. I don't care. I'll go the 10 years. I'll pay him till he's 40. I don't care. For him, I will do it, because guess what? He's getting better as a hitter. His peak is trending later. And when he comes off of his peak, he's still going to be really good. And then if you have the Judge Ohtani combination, I mean, you're never going to be far off if you're the Yankees from competing. I know we had some comments in there. Yanks need pitching, Mets need pitching, whatever. I don't think pitching has really been the Yankees' problem this year. It's clearly been the offense. Even when their pitching hasn't looked like it's so good, guess what? Their bullpen has still had the #1 ERA in baseball. And you can find starters in an offseason here and there when you're starting out with Garrett Cole at the front of your rotation. Like you could do that. You could figure out a way. Well, listen,
I had the same thought.
Yeah, but your guys were, you knew we talked about it ad infinitum that, yeah, it's great on paper and but your starting pitchers for the Mets are 40, and there's just a lot more risk and unpredictability there. Garrett Cole's not 40, he's like 30. So he's still going to be a front of the line guy for a while. Now, nobody expected the precipitous drop off of Severino, and you didn't really foresee Nestor Cortez basically giving you nothing this year. I mean, I know he came out of nowhere last year. So theoretically, you kind of shouldn't have expected it. But the pitching really hasn't been their problem. Their problem is that they can't score runs. So whatever pitching they have, like Clark Schmidt he's been pretty good this year. Like he's been fine. He's been probably a little bit better than some of the Mets guys that have stepped in. I mean, he had a rough start to it, but since then, he's been pretty good. And they've had guys that they could bring in to fill in these spots. Plus, you do have these middling guys in free agency that are always out there. And, the Angels haven't done a good job of bringing those guys in, but like the Yankees have in the past. I mean, guys like Jameson, Tyone, when you bring him in, he's not great, but he gets you innings at the back of your rotation. And when you have a great offense, that's a way to win games. Guys that are just middling or back of the rotation starters, like Jordan Montgomery, he was a good example, right? On a good team, he's a back of the rotation guy. He can give you innings. And, when he's on a middling team or a bad team and he's pushed to the front of the rotation, he could still give you innings, but he's not going to win games, like he'll keep you in the mix most of the time, but he's not Cole. And when it comes to a playoff game, he's going to be pushed out of the rotation if you have three other guys better, which you're going to need to win the World Series. You put him on the Astros, he's the fifth starter. You put him on the Rangers, he's like the 2 or the 3 right now with all those guys that are hurt. It's Scherzer, Gray, and like Montgomery. But if DeGrom and some Dane Dunning or whatever, like he were there, or some guys were healthy, like he might get pushed out. So I don't think that's been the Yankees' problem. So there's a few scenarios here too. Like I said before the season that I thought, first of all, I still think the favorite to keep him is the Angels. I'm still going to be surprised. I know everybody's like, he's gone, he's not going back there. I will still be surprised. I won't be shocked, but I'll be surprised if and when he leaves. I said then, I think the next favorite would be the Giants. And I don't think anybody at that point had mentioned the Giants at all. Now, during the middle of the season, I've started to hear it more. The Giants have the money. They have the gumption. They had the Barry Bonds exception, for all those years. And, they wanted to do it this past year and they did do it. And then they rescinded the contract, as did the Mets, for Carlos Correa. So the Giants have the
best move the Mets made all year.
Yeah, maybe. The Giants have the Giants have the gumption to do it. So if he wants to stay on the West Coast and he doesn't want to sort of take the hearts of the Angel fans by going to the Dodgers, then the Giants are the logical place. Now, let's say the Giants miss out on him. Maybe that's the point where you get the Giants to take Stanton and Stanton agrees to go. Or maybe JD Martinez doesn't get re-signed because you can send Stanton to the Dodgers, which is another place that he'd be likely to go. Like the most likely places he'd agree to go, I would say, are for sure the Dodgers and, secondarily the Giants. So if you can get out from under him, that also helps you in the bid for Ohtani. Your other angle, if you're the Yankees, is the one that I've thought all along, which is, as I reach back for my prop, if you're not watching, then you're going to miss this, but Dawg, you could say what I'm holding up now.
Holding up the Juan Soto Padres bobblehead.
Yeah. So Juan Soto, to me, is the guy that the Yankees really have kept left field open for. But you've kept left field open for him, in terms of free agency. Like you're less likely to make a deal to get him. They just might not even have what it takes to get a deal if the Padres decide to deal him. But you've left it open to get him in free agency, and that doesn't occur until after next season, right? But now, if you have the prospect of Ohtani not pitching anymore, then you should be evaluating Ohtani as a potential left fielder. So there's a scenario where Soto ends up with the Yankees, Ohtani stays on the West Coast somewhere, Ohtani goes to the Mets, Alonso ends up in San Francisco. Like there's a few, it's like the Padres, the Angels, the Yankees, Mets, Giants, and the Dodgers in there somewhere. Like for all these guys. I think. Healy, where's the tall boy as Gallagher checks in?
You got like a 6-way deal going right now. I think the Dodgers are being a little undersold on it, by the way. I think
which part?
Just going straight for Ohtani.
No, I'm not underselling them. I think I'm saying the scenario from the Ohtani standpoint is if he doesn't want to steal the hearts. I mean, if he goes from the Angels to the Dodgers, the Angels might as well just fold up their franchise at that point. I mean, you won't be able to look a Dodger fan in the face after that. You just can't. I mean, it's like, and you didn't get anything for him. So if you don't get anything for him and he goes to like the Giants, or if he goes to the Yankees or the Mets or the Cubs or the Mariners, come on. But if he goes to the Dodgers,
that's the death. You might as well just move to Vegas.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the play. So
screw the A's.
Trade Trout and just go to Vegas.
Yeah, trade Trout to the Phillies and go start Aaron Nola and just go to Vegas. Yeah,
we're taking
a great call out.
We're taking the entire farm system. Mike Trout. And we're going to
got a nice little reunion going on the chat here. The chat is like on
fire
tonight.
I love this.
On a Monday, August 28th.
There you go.
As we've been doing show after show in the summer.
One topic in. Knew we should have dinner.
Baseball sucks, so we talk about football. Brought to you by Mascolo Group Realtors, serving the Northern Valley and Pascack Valley in North Jersey. Go to GaryMascolo.com or call 201-615-3665. As we do for all of our sponsors, just go into the description of the show if you want more information about them, and no matter where you are, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, by the way, going away. I don't know if you knew that, Dawg.
Oh, I did not know that.
So our Stitcher listener is gonna
we can move. We're gonna bring him over. Bring him over.
The NFL season starts September 7th when the Detroit Lions visit the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the defending Super Bowl champs. Now, what's kind of funny is the Lions were like the it team heading into the season last year because they were on Hard Knocks, right? And everybody was like falling in love with them. And Dan Campbell and our pal Boomer bought a Lions jersey because he's just a front runner.
Yes, to death.
Yeah. So they sucked at the start of the year. I mean, they didn't suck, but they just what did they end up? They started like 0-6 or 1-7, something like that. And then they like found it, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like this fun team that everybody was behind. And, they got to the last game of the last week and they just needed a couple of things to break right. And then they were playing Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and had a couple of things broken right. And the Lions won that game. They would have been in the playoffs. Otherwise, the scenario that unfolded was the Packers needed to win the game and then the Lions beat them to take it away. And now Aaron Rodgers has left the Packers and he's on Hard Knocks for the Jets. And the Jets are this this darling team. Dawg, have you looked at the Jets schedule to start the year?
I have not looked at their schedule yet.
I think what I'll do right now, Dawg, is I will drone on for a moment while you pull up the Jets schedule.
Okay, schedule.
Because you're gonna love.
I was checking out the depth chart actually. Let's see what we got. All right. Ooh, Buffalo. That's not harsh. That's a rough start. Okay, so we're getting right at it versus Buffalo. All right, that's actually I kind of love that because especially echoes of Giants Cowboys. Like we're going to find out right away who's real and who's not.
And where is that game, most importantly?
In MetLife.
Okay, so that's like a must-win in game one, isn't it?
It is.
It's kind of like a must win for what you just said.
It's like crazy. Like actually back to back MetLife games too. Crazy.
So then, okay, so
So you got so Buffalo right away. So tough gig, right? Your Rodgers just coming in. So you would figure this team gets better as the season goes on, as they get more chance to gel, a lot of new pieces in, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, tough start right out. So next game at Dallas.
At Dallas.
Tough one. I mean, tough,
Has Rodgers ever lost at Dallas? Oh no, wait. It was the Cowboys never win in Green Bay, right?
Yeah, I think
or do the Packers never lose? Did the Cowboys ever beat the Packers anywhere? I forget. There's one. It's like, I think maybe it's just that Dallas doesn't win in Green Bay, or Green Bay always wins. I don't know.
That seems more like it.
I think Rodgers has done well against Dallas, but it's, Rodgers against Mike McCarthy, right?
Yeah.
So that's a fiery game right off the bat.
Yeah, short week traveling to Dallas as usual. Dallas getting hooked up.
But what if you're 0-2? It's really possible.
Then you get to come home to the hoodie.
Okay.
He's scheming for weeks.
Okay.
That one they should take.
Game 3 at home against the Patriots is 100%. That's a must win.
Must win. Yeah.
Except if they're 2-0 and the Patriots come into the game 2-0. Right? Then you're like, well, maybe the Patriots are better than we think. Maybe Belichick, has something going here where he's just been underestimated this season, and this team is like a little bit better than we think. But that's the only scenario where it's anything but a must win. You
gotta come out week 3 2-1, because next week you're hosting Kansas City and you're going to lose.
Right.
Right. So there's your home game. So
right.
You pray you come out of the first games 2-2.
Right. You got to at least go 2-2 in those first 4. Right.
Yeah.
And you could be 0-4.
Yeah.
You could be 4-0, but you could be 0-4. The good thing is you have the Buffalo game and you have the Kansas City game at home in that span. So 3 home games.
And later in the season, that 2-2 would be a lot easier than it's going to be right out the gate.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. You want this momentum. If you're the Jets, you don't want to have to try to play from behind the way that the Lions did last year, because you have so much good feeling. You have the tweener fan right now, that sort of next generation New York tweener fan, right? Who's trying to decide between the Giants and the Jets, or they don't know that they're trying to decide. It's just going to be something that kind of happens, right? Like when you're young, you just.
Jets 1-2, down 2 touchdowns, fourth quarter, that Kansas City game. It's going to be ugly. The fan base will be in uproar.
I don't know, but you can't complain too much if you're losing to the Chiefs. That's the thing. It's
if you're staring at 1-3 and hopes dashed already.
Here's something interesting though. What if you go into that game 3-0?
Sunday night game too.
If you're 3-0 going into that game, and you're not an underdog, like let's say the Chiefs come in 1-2 or 2-1 or something.
Jets -1 or something like that.
Yeah, like something like that, pick 'em game, and then
Monday night game.
And the Chiefs come in and they just take you apart. Like one of those 42-12 Chief jobs, right? Like Travis Kelce, 6 touchdowns. One of those. Like as a Jet fan, how do you feel at that point?
The Jersey Troopers better show up with a presence. I'll just say that, one way or the other, coming out of that game Sunday night.
All right. So it's crazy. The Jets right off the bat. I mean, listen, they didn't have a choice about Hard Knocks, but this was definitely like the best choice.
Yeah.
Because it literally has. I've watched a few of them, and I have not watched Hard Knocks for like 12 years. I used to watch it early. But I don't think I've watched it.
I never got.
And Tannehill was drafted by the Dolphins. I think that was the last season I watched it. Not even shitting you, right? But it's been, it's been vanilla fluff But it's hard not to get into the Jets. And like I do, you're a huge Giants fan. I'm a huge Giants fan, like, a birthright Giant fan. But like I'm excited. I love Rodgers though. I know I'm like in the minority. Like I freaking love Rodgers. What am I gonna do? I can't help it. I just love the guy.
Probably something Dapple. This guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. Anyway, so we got at Denver. Are we going to do the whole schedule, or we just want to do that?
We could go Giants. We could go Giants now.
All right.
Let's.
They got Denver, and then they got Philadelphia, and then it rolls into the Giants.
As we mentioned, wrapping up the Jets here. Just take a break. Big Ed's Car Wash, 17-16 River Road in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Clean and green. His 118-foot tunnel will leave your car sparkling, and they'll do a great job inside as well. Big Ed's Car Wash, Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Tell Ed that Diamond Diehard sent you, and happy belated birthday to Big Ed as well.
Ah, happy birthday, Big Ed.
All right, Dawg. Giants.
Week 1 is big. Week 1 is big. This is going to be a rough and tough division. I think all the teams fortified this year. I like what the Giants did. I think they closed a lot of the talent gap, but I think there's still a little bit there. Certainly with Philadelphia, and probably a little bit with Dallas, even just being honest. But yeah, if you're a Giant fan, you gotta be pretty excited. I mean, the organization is definitely there. That we're, that they're definitely on a strong uptrend. And if the offensive line can be average, this is gonna be a real dangerous team. Because I think that D is gonna be for real. I think Wink's really gonna get to use the defense the way he wants to, with the 2 good young rookie corners out on the island. Speed all over the place, both sides of the ball, and weapons all over the place on offense. So that feels pretty good.
All right, week 1. Where is it? What is it?
Dallas at home, the biggie. Sunday night
Monday,
game. Big
it's Sunday night. That's right.
And that it's crazy. Must game. That's almost a must game. I mean, for the division, it's almost a must game week 1, which is nuts. And for once they get to actually host Dallas, they're supposed to fly down and play Dallas week 1.
Well, I think one thing. So we have Paul Gallagher chiming in on the chat. 22K Dallas fans in the building. It's kind of a good point. The Giants have been down for so long that I think those numbers for the Cowboys in MetLife Stadium, and listen, the Cowboys travel, as good or better as any franchise in any sport, right? Now there's so much anticipation for the Giants being back and a hunger for their fans to actually see good football that they respect. Like, it's a totally different feeling as a Giant fan going into this season, even than it was last year. Yeah. Last year going into the season was the same sort of hope and blind optimism that we had the 3 previous times when they changed coaches since Coughlin.
Hope but realistic, right? If you went and said, like, they were competitive, but they were 4-11, but they were competitive and they just kept falling a little bit short, none of us would have been shocked last year.
Right. But what you got what was arguably the best coached team in the league, winning games that they shouldn't have been winning, and making the playoffs and winning a playoff game on the road, and until they were overmatched in Philly, which was at least it was a merciful and quick ending. I mean, the game was over. It literally, like, but 2 possessions into the game was over. So there was like, you didn't even have to watch it. You could just be like, all right, well, we had a great season, on to next year. But now you come in and you're like, wait a minute, like, Daniel Jones looks great. And, he finally has a system and he's got a coach that's understands where his strengths are and took away a lot of where his weaknesses were last season. And you have an offensive line that had been shredded previously, and it got to serviceable last year.
Yeah.
And now if it gets past certain, you're like, well, if we could do that with just like a serviceable line, they weren't good, but they were serviceable. If they just get to good this year, that's
Even
going to
average. Just average.
yeah. That's
Great
going to
left
be,
tackle,
that'll
everyone
be,
else, meh. Average.
it'll be a,
overall.
it'll be a
Yeah.
big difference.
Yep.
Right. And now they're picking up guys on defense between the draft and this, I say, Isaiah Simmons trade was
Huge.
It looks like it makes no sense. Like
It feels like the
was
Eagles should have
was
made
there?
it.
I know
It feels
you're
like that's the
right.
Eagles do every year. It's like they get a guy for free.
Yeah,
Who's like a sick impact player. And the Giants finally got one of those.
yeah. The Giants got him, and they didn't pay anything for him. They paid like a 7th round pick to get him.
And he's $1 million.
I know.
He's like a salary cap saving.
I know. Like, what are these guys going to do next year? They're going to trade a 6th round pick to the Cowboys for Micah Parsons next offseason. That's what we could expect.
You got to pay up a little bit.
After, yeah, you got to pay up.
All the way to the 6.
Yeah. A 6 next year and then a 7 the year after. No, it's like unbelievable. I mean, from Joe Shane all the way down at the GM spot, and then him and Brian Daboll being on the same page. It gives you just a completely different feeling. It's still cautious optimism. That the roster hasn't been completely revamped, but like one of the big weaknesses was at wide receiver. And what did they do, Dawg? They brought like 23 receivers into camp, right?
Like I might be cutting Cole Beasley. I mean, like that guy looks great.
Yeah. He's looked phenomenal.
I'm saying, yeah, he's like the number 7 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean Waller right there, huge matchup problem. Daniel
Got to
Jones
stay healthy.
actually,
Waller's got to stay healthy. He's a big question mark.
Very fair, and that's why they got him for the price they did.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
That is.
I mean, plays right into Daniel Jones' strength, like hitting a tight end down the middle deep is like right. That's like Daniel Jones' sweet spot. They haven't had an ability to transact on that. That's huge. They brought in a ton of speed. I mean, just look at year over year, right? I mean, it's crazy just how much more speed you have out there. Hodgins being a great pick even from last year, Campbell, and obviously Jalen Hyatt coming in. I mean, tremendous talent that you've put in at the wide receiver spot. Wan'Dale Robinson, hopefully when he comes back to rejoin the team. Tremendous amount of talent on there, and all that. Again, if you get the line, give you the time, all that speed over the top, that just opens it up for Saquon as well. And just everything starts to get better. That's the great thing, and the thing I love about the sport. It starts to turn into a virtuous circle where everything winds up getting a little bit better. Right now Saquon can release and go out and be a receiver into the flat, right, and be a complete matchup nightmare versus a below par pass protector because our line is getting overrun. Right, so now everything starts to get better then.
I like the thing you said about Waller, because for a quarterback like Jones, the reason why a guy like that becomes potentially so valuable, right? It looks great on paper, and until we start seeing it in games, it's a little different. But quarterbacks that can move benefit more from that tight end who has the ability to release. The reason is because as the quarterback starts to move, whoever is covering the tight end is the first person that turns and starts to go after the quarterback, right? They can't guard both guys. They got to go get the scrambling quarterback. And most of the time, the quarterback is not going to make that throw to the tight end. But when that opens up, it's, it could be 5-6 times a year. And if it happens early, then what starts to happen is he starts to scramble, and that guy stays with the tight end, and now he runs for 20 yards, right? Like, look at the guys, the sort of exception in the last 5 years is Brady with Gronkowski, right? But, Mahomes, he's not a runner, but he's a scrambler, right? You could say he's a scrambler.
Yep.
And look at that. Watch when Kelsey makes the big plays. That's when he makes the big plays. Like, he's all around phenomenal, but when he gets those big gainers, it's from, Mahomes coming out of the pocket. Watch Mark Andrews from the Ravens, he gets wide open in space when Lamar Jackson looks like he's going to take off. And then Lamar Jackson throws these fluttering ducks to him, he catches it in stride, and he goes for 36 yards, right? The guy sometimes runs like he has a lead piano on his back. But he's great, right? And Waller is that type of guy where he's really, he's a receiver first. He's not, Gronk in the running game, right? But that's fine. Like they hopefully don't need that. So a lot of cautious optimism here, like a different sort of confidence in the Giants. What about week 2?
Week 2, going on the road to Arizona. Be a fun one to travel to. Wish we could pull it off to go see the movie out there. But Arizona, knock wood, seems like they're hard sellers at this point. So you got to feel good about that game. Then you got San Francisco next week. So that's a toughie at San Francisco. So that's tough back to back. Giants a lot on the road early, which again is a tough one. And again, at the Arizona game, maybe it can be a little bit easier than we had kind of thought previously. But if you got Dallas, Arizona, San Francisco, and then home with Seattle, that's three pretty tough games right there. Seattle does have to travel. They do get the extra night, Monday night game, so to give them a little bit of a break on there. And actually, I forgot about this shenanigans here. So for week 2, week 3, so again, which really makes the Dallas game so huge, right? So you're traveling on the road to, somewhat shorter week to Arizona Sunday, and then you have an away game Thursday in San Francisco. So they're going up staying out there, which is just like, I guess it was good. They said they'd rather just stay there, but that's kind of crazy in its own right. And then they do get a nice little break for Seattle. So you really, if you're the Giants, you really want to be able to, you want to be 2-1, I think, coming out of there.
Yeah, you do.
Which means you got to be a team that's going. You're gonna be, kind of a pick 'em or maybe an underdog, right? Between Dallas and San Francisco, you got to get at least one of those, and you got to hope that you get Arizona as well.
Yeah, I think the best time to catch San Francisco is right at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Here,
and it'll be a short week for them too. So in fairness,
yeah. Brock Purdy, he's ready, he's there, he's playing. They traded Trey Lance for pennies on the dollar. I texted my friend Peter Clark. Well, Peter, he's been on. He did our draft show, not this year, but last year. And I just texted him during, when Trey Lance was demoted to third string. I sent him a text, LOL, Trey Lance. And then you're like, Peter, like, you're one of like 6 people that I know that I could just text this to, and like, you'll totally get it. Like, you'll get what I mean. And then they end up trading him to the Cowboys for like nothing.
Quarterback controversy already.
Come on.
By the way, the Eddie Agar on Twitter was just hilarious.
Oh God,
it's really it was the garbage can or the mailbox or whatever.
Yeah, the garbage can.
It's garbage can. That was just tremendous.
God.
It's gonna learn from Dak how to do that.
Yeah, it's look, I mean, I get why you take a chance on the guy. I get it, but like nobody's ever seen it in him. Like it was crazy, even on draft day when the Niners mortgaged whatever to get him. I mean, they ended up paying like 3 first-round picks to move up to the point where they could get him, and everybody was like, why didn't you just stay where you were? Like nobody else was going to take him. And even when he was in there last year, it was clearly like a forced, startership, right? And then the guy who's Mr. Irrelevant in the draft ends up becoming your starter, and then the guy
saves the GM.
And then a guy who was picked 2nd overall, you trade him for nothing. And a guy who was picked 3rd overall, who you got off the scrap heap, is now your backup. And listen, the writing was on the wall as soon as free agency opened, and they signed what's his face there. I just said he was the 3rd pick in the draft, and now I can't think of his name. The guy from the Jets. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
They
sorry.
signed Sam Darnold like immediately. He was like the first free agent signing by like anybody. Like, why are you signing like a third string quarterback? Well, they weren't signing a third string quarterback.
Yeah.
They were sealing Trey Lance's fate right there. Like, listen, I mean, I hope for Trey Lance. I'm sure he's a great guy. I hope for him that, you know, he gets a chance and has success somewhere, but like I will be shocked. Like I just never, I mean, nobody's really seen him a lot, but like even from what I've seen, I'm like, I don't get it at all. And then, you know, people who I respect, NFL wise, like the people who I listen to, like it's like literally unanimous. Like I've never heard one person say they really think that this guy could be it. So yeah, you know, for the Cowboys, if you take a chance, if he's your third guy or second guy or whatever, and you know, a couple of guys get hurt and you know, he surprises you or he does something, then that's great. But like the time to catch the Niners is now. And the other thing is, if you're the Giants, right? They were strong on the road last year, much stronger than they were at home. And the Niners typically have been stronger on the road as well and a little bit more vulnerable at home. So, you know, catching them early in the season, playing them at San Francisco, it could be a couple of advantages here for the Giants to grab that game against, you know, one of I think they are the second favorite out of the NFC for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What do they got for week 4?
So week 4, they got home for Seattle.
Oh yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah,
so that's a revenge game now too, right? Like that's a revenge game because the Seahawks
not
handed
an easy one
last year.
Yeah, but that's one you got to win. And if you want to be in the playoffs and win the division, that's one you got to win.
Yeah,
I would say. Not an easy game though. Then the next 2 weeks they're going on the road to Miami and on the road to Buffalo.
Yeah,
that's a tough,
very tough games.
Tough right there, right?
Right. You have to win that Seattle game because
you're gonna lose one of those other two, if not both.
Yeah, because you could lose those other two.
Yeah.
You hope to split.
You hope to beat Miami. You might say you hope to beat Miami and Buffalo's gonna be a long putt. I mean, that Miami could be toasty. I mean, it's not.
Shane and Dayball going back to Buffalo. Like I feel like we got to win that one.
That'd be a big Sunday night game again too.
Win it for Coach
October
Dayball.
15th. It might be snow. October 15th, Buffalo could be snow.
Win it for Coach Dayball.
Coming back for Washington. That'll be interesting. Which Washington is it? Is it the Washington we've known the last several years, or is this the one that finally has their quarterback and you know, the rest of the team? The rest of the team's talent is there. They found their quarterback. You know, even that becomes a tougher game for the Giants. Then they get hosting the Jetsies, huge game. Both teams, both will be fired up for that. And then they get road travels again. So for November, on the road to Vegas. You probably got to take that one. At Dallas, so we'll see on that, and then at Washington. So and then home for New England, and then finally a bye. So they have a rough road. Those first 12 weeks, that is a rough road.
And there's no sneaking up on anybody this year.
Yep.
They did that last year. But listen,
they
I don't.
They have primetime games like three. They got three. I think was it three of the first 6 weeks they're on prime time.
So Dawg, there's no sneaking up on anybody this year. However, I will say this. One of the earmarks of the success of the teams that are well coached is that they don't need the sneaking up on people thing to carry over. Like that scares the opposition week in and week out, knowing that like this team is probably not going to make the mistakes to beat themselves. Like we have to go out there and beat them. How many games did the Pats win just because of that? Like year after year after year, you're like, Brady's not going to make a mistake. Great. What if we can get the defense to make a mistake? Well, the defense is not going to make a mistake either. So like, how are we going to beat these guys? Like they don't, on paper, they're pretty good, but the talent is not through the roof. They got like 3 or 4 guys at the top that are super good on both sides of the ball. Like everywhere else, like we might have an advantage. Yeah, but they're just not going to beat themselves ever. And, even if it's, when there's 2:13 left in the fourth quarter and it's a 3-point game, like they're out managing you. Like if you make the mistake and you give up 10 seconds where you needed to keep it, or you let 10, seconds stay on the clock where you needed to melt it, the Giants are not screwing it up. The Giants are getting it right, and they're getting it right almost every time. And they got a great kicker too. Let's not forget that. That makes a difference, right? Like in these games, a lot of these tight games, you got, we like Graham Gano. So Dawg, FMSgraphics.com is a family-owned, family-run business for over 50 years. Go to FMS Graphics for all of your printing and promotional needs. Big supporters of Big Blue, by the way. As are we. All right, Dawg. The Twitter handle.
Do we finish on the stretch, or are we done?
Yeah, I think we're done.
We're done.
Yeah, you yelled at me for being like on the first topic 40 minutes in, so I decided to accelerate.
Well, just saying.
Well, we ended up talking more about baseball than I thought we were gonna.
That's true.
There were more scenarios.
The fans demanded it. They want
Yankee
talk. They want Yankee talk.
And Met talk. There was a lot of good Met talk there with Alonso stuff, whatever.
Bader will be back. There we go. Dallas must go down.
Yeah.
George fired up on.
I like how PJ Marisco was like, stop being a boomer on your dud trade. Yankees need to bench Bader since he is a dead man walking, and bring up Dominguez. However, he was rebuffed by George Morez, who said Dominguez far from ready. Bader will be back. And Mr. Morez, as I can tell you, he is, while he is not a Yankee fan, nobody does a better job of watching the minor leagues than George Morez. He could be a scout.
Nice.
So if George says Dominguez is far from ready, then he is far from ready. And I didn't even mention literally anything about the trade. That's the first time I mentioned Bader's name, just reading a comment, right? Did I mention the trade at all?
You mentioned Jordan Montgomery, so I feared it was just going to go to a whole nother level. But
I didn't mention the trade, though. I was just
using
mention
the trade
as an example.
So, yep.
Because aren't the Mets playing Texas now? He's starting the second game, right? Or the third game of that series?
Yeah, I know he started one of them.
Right. Well, Gray is in the first game. A guy who you said the Mets should have gotten, John Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I agreed with that.
Yep.
He's
at the deadline and free agency too.
He's like, Gray he's sort of like a right-handed version of Montgomery, but he's just like a tick above him.
Yeah.
Not great, but he's good. Like he's a guy. He's a middle
of solid
rotation guy on a good team.
You need solid threes.
Yes.
And you feel like Carrasco, but we did not.
And you feel like in a playoff game, he's not going to throw a no-hitter, but you feel like he's going to be there.
He gives you the 4 innings, and you work the bullpen around him.
If you have to, 4 or 5. You hope he's going to give you 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Dawg, the Twitter, Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8, and Diamond Diehards for me. I don't. Do you still call it Twitter? Or do you call it X? Whatever. I still call it Twitter.
I still call it Twitter. I'm not calling it X.
I love X. I mean, I have a child whose first name begins with X. Producer Xavier. Or wait, does his name begin with a P? Producer Xavier.
PX. Post exchange.
PX90.
There you
go. And follow the podcast everywhere that podcasts are, but especially here. Listen, if you're listening to this on demand later on, that's great. But if you had the chance to be on the live stream on Facebook, you would have been able to jump into the comments here. We had some really, really, really great and lively commenters today. So we thank you guys for all chipping in.
Butler coming in.
Oh, wait.
Uncle Paul not commenting. He's in here. He's just lurking.
Oh, well, yeah, I gave Uncle Paul a little heads up. Yeah. He might have missed the beginning, like where we were talking about the Met part.
True.
See, I don't know how you could see the people that are in the room when I can't. I don't know. Are you looking at it on your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's it. I have it on the browser screen in front of me.
So I'm looking down.
The phone is superior. It's a superior piece. It helps.
By the way, good.
It helps us.
What did we? What was I just watching? The good.
The phone is superior, Dog. It helps the CCP track us better.
Good show. I think on Netflix on Abbey Road. By the way, little outreach, a little something from Mary McCartney. So Paul's daughter doing a little thing.
Really?
Abbey Road, like the 90 years of Abbey Road. Very good. Popped it on last night. So
wow, I gotta check that out.
Highly recommend. A little Elton John in there. So you doing some shout outs there and all that.
I got maybe I'll sit down and watch that with Dominic Rizzo, who's
it's a goodie.
He's teaching himself Goodbye Yellow Brick Road on the piano these days.
It was very cool. A little bit of a get back vibe, but like much shorter and condensed. So nice
big
little,
Beatles fan, Dominic Rizzo. I started watching
Did you watch Get Back with them?
I haven't watched it yet. Dominic and I wanted to watch it together, but
that's a long time. It's usual Peter Jackson. It's about 50% longer than it needed to be, but it's good.
That's kind of like,
but yeah,
that's kind of Riz like.
Really good,
that's kind of Riz like. Everything's 50% longer than it needs to be. That's also how I got triplets, by the way.
More on that later.
Not later.
Talk to us on the X, baby.
I started watching The Crown.
I haven't done that.
I got through 2 episodes and it's already been like 2 weeks because I'm horrible at watching shows. But then I started watching World War II in color.
Oh boy, there you go. That'll eat it all up.
And then I got through the first 2 episodes. I'm like, and then I was tired. I'm like, but I was so into it because I like history is my favorite thing.
You doing Dan Carlin podcast? What?
No, I used to.
Yeah.
But
that'd be good for like your Mongo walks.
Yeah.
But Dan Carlin, like, one episode, 5 hours later.
Yeah. That was like when I traveled a lot for work. That was one of my sleep podcasts. Like I would put it on and I knew that like it would just keep going because it's so hard. Sometimes like you're traveling and you're in a hotel room, you don't even know where you are. And you're like, oh my God, I just want to go to sleep. And you're just laying there for an hour and a half. And you're like, Dan Carlin's not like raising his voice at you,
Yeah.
He's got dulcet tones.
Yes.
But World War II in color, I was like into it and I'm like, oh man, I got to hit the sack. But like I could probably stay awake for another 15 minutes. And I'm like, the Pearl Harbor episode, I'm like, I'm going to bed right now. I'll be too fired up if I watch the Pearl Harbor episode. I can't like,
nope.
Yeah, I can't. That's got to be like everybody's got to be out of my way.
That's okay.
Everybody's got to be out of my way. I got no interruptions. I got it when it's the Pearl Harbor episode. I got to watch the Pearl Harbor episode. Myself, no distractions. Can't distract Dad when he's doing that.
There you go.
So that will do it. I think we did all like the share stuff, right? Yeah, I think we did. All right. That's going to wrap it up. We'll surprise you with the next episode whenever we feel like it. Maybe it'll be this week. I think our pal Mike Sappho is gonna pop in this weekend, maybe. So we'll try to do a
definitely. We definitely talk. You're on the Twitter or the X, whatever, or do a show on the NFL Cutdown.
Yeah,
That's
we should try to do that.
Maybe mix it in with Sappho too. So we could do that. You got a lot of like, you got all the cuts, and the next day like 5 more guys get cut and picked up. So
yeah, we could do the delayed.
We get to wrap it later in the week.
The delayed cut show. Maybe we'll get Peter Clark for that one.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah,
he knows all those, like, especially like like some of the lower guys you don't necessarily know a ton about, or like why this guy's so much better than the other guy.
Yeah, he'll tell you like why the guy the Titans picked up on waivers was better than the guy that the Cowboys picked up on waivers. Like,
yeah, well, deep
stuff though. It's usually right. All right, Dog. That's gonna do it. Wrapping it up for the Monday, August 28th show. Pete Alonso. Is he going somewhere? Baseball sucks, so we talk about football. The Jets have the buzz from Hard Knocks. The Giants not quite flying under the radar, but the Jets are flying above the Giants' radar, so they're taking it away a little bit. Good stuff. And we'll be back soon enough. For the Dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.